Welcome back to day 2 of Vacation Bible School. So today we're going to learn about Moses and the 10 plagues. So yesterday I read out of the Children's Bible in 365 stories, and the 10 plagues actually are like 2 or 3 stories in there. So I'm going to read from your paper that your parents have out of your book bag today. And while I'm reading, I need you to get a few things. So in your bag of book bag stuff, you need to find the snacks that say day 2, and you need to get your red Jell-O and your Teddy Grahams. So if you need to pause this video while you get your snack out, I'll be right here waiting for you. All right, so in that snack, there are tons of things. And parents, there is a little cheat sheet for you that kind of looks like this too. But while I'm reading the story today, I want you to look in your bag and see which candy you think identifies with the plague. All right, so let's get started. God had promised Moses that he would do many terrifying things to make the king and the people of Israel too understand he was able to rescue his people. Moses and his brother Aaron went back to the king and warned him that if he didn't obey God and set free his people, all kinds of bad things would come to Egypt. Have you ever told anybody, well, if you do this for me, then I'll do this for you, and it's a really good thing? Well, in this case, Moses and Aaron went to the Pharaoh and said, if you don't let God's people go, something bad's going to happen to you. The king simply laughed and refused to pay any attention. God kept his promise, and 9 terrible disasters struck Egypt, all at God's command. After each one, Moses went to the king and gave him the chance to change his mind and obey God. But every time, the king hardened his heart. First, Moses raised his stick on God's orders, and the life-giving water of the river Nile, which supplied all Egypt, changed to thick, red, oozing blood. So out of all your snacks today, which one do you think represents the blood? Yep, that's right. It's the red Jell-O. Then frogs came jumping out of the foul waters and hopped everywhere, into the houses, the beds, and even the ovens. So which of your snacks do you think that one is? Yep, for this one, it's in your bag of goodies. And we couldn't find frogs, but the next best thing we could find are these gummy octopus. At first, the court magicians copied Moses, showing what wonderful tricks they could perform. But they could do nothing to cleanse the Nile River or get rid of the frogs. So the Pharaoh had magicians, and the first thing that Moses did was turn the Nile into blood. Well, they could turn water into red water. So that's kind of the same thing in Pharaoh's eyes. But they couldn't turn it back into clear water. The king was sorry for himself. He promised Moses that he would let the people go if their God would only take away the frogs. Moses prayed to God, and the frogs died. But the moment trouble was over, the king changed his mind again and said no to Moses and to God. So God sent itchy lice and fat buzzing flies. All right, so in your bag, I have lice. That gets on your hair, makes your head really itch. And flies. I know I see those on people's food if you're trying to eat outside. So in your bag of goodies, if you find, they're called snow caps, and they look like this with the little dots, that's your lice. And then if I look in here, I have Tootsie Rolls. Those are my flies. Each time the king promised Moses that if God took away the plague, he would let the people go. Each time Moses listened to the king, and each time the king changed his mind once the disaster was over and refused to let the Israelites go. Here's your next plague. Cows, horses, and donkeys died from disease. That is our Teddy Grahams. That's our bears dying. The people themselves broke out in painful red swelling boils. But still, the king said no. All right, boil. Something red in my package. And this one you might have to be careful of. But they're called Boston beans. And they have peanuts inside. Next, a storm broke out. And hailstones rained down like bullets. And also fire came from heaven. So hailstones, that's our little mini marshmallows. And fire, those are our hot tamales. A plague of hungry locusts came like a black cloud and devoured all of the crops. All right, so something that looks like a locust. They eat a lot of green things. So we have a really green licorice. After that, the land was plagued for 3 days in black, inky darkness. So in my bag, I've already used my Tootsie Roll. So this time I have my Junior Mints. It's light on the inside, but dark on the outside. The people of Israel were kept safe from these terrible troubles. God had proved that he was stronger and greater than all the gods of Egypt and their clever magicians, but the king still said no. After each disaster fell on the country, the people of Egypt, Moses and Aaron, went to the king. They begged him to change his mind and listen to God. After God sent the ninth sign, total darkness, the king flew into a rage. He had had enough. "Get out of my sight. I never want to set eyes on you again," the king shouted to Moses. "You won't," Moses told him. "But because you will not change your mind, God must do one more terrible thing. After that, you will let his people go." God told Moses at midnight, "I will go through the whole land of Egypt, and the firstborn son in every family will die, from the palace all the way to the poorest house. There will be crying and mourning in all of Egypt." So if I go back to my bag, I have these little people. The king still paid no attention to Moses or to God's warning. God told Moses the Israelite people would be safe if they followed God's instructions. If they did as God said, the oldest son would be safe when the angel of death went through the land. All right, so you have a lot of snack to eat, but you also have a craft for today. And your craft has 2 sheets. One looks like this. And here's the back, so your little wheel. So I would say to color this first. It's a lot easier to color it and then cut it out. So once you cut and color both of these, you also need a brad, and this is little bitty gold, or you might have silver in your book bag. So this is the top sheet. So you're going to take this brad once it's cut out and stick it through the middle, and it's actually going to be a wheel, so you can go through and remember all 10 of the plagues that were in our story. And I will see you tomorrow for day 3 of Bible school.